Hello and thank you for joining me again on Run Level 0. On today's episode we are going to be exploring Q4OS. Q4OS is a Linux distribution based on Debian Wheezy. It's the latest stable version of the Debian operating system. It says that the system is distinguished by speed and very low hardware requirements, run great on brand new machines as well as legacy computers, and it is also very applicable for virtualization and clouds. The version we're looking at today is 0.5.18. It is still in a beta, and this is kind of an unusual review for me because I generally, as a rule, do not review alphas, betas, or release candidates. But the developer says here in the release notes that Q4OS is now stable enough to be recommended for everyday use. So I will make an exception in this case. So we're going to take a look at this. Q4OS, being based on Debian Wheezy, is going to be rock solid and stable. And because it has a sudo rolling release cycle, it's going to be very easy to maintain and update. Now, if you're looking for always having the latest and greatest in software versions, like the latest version of Firefox or Chrome OS or what have you, Debian may not be best for you because it is known for having some of the older software packages. But what it sacrifices in terms of having bleeding edge software, it gains in stability and reliability. So if you're looking for a stable platform to build upon, a Debian-based OS like Q4OS might be right up your alley. Q4OS features the Trinity Desktop Environment, and this is the first time I've reviewed anything with Trinity. Trinity has been around for a few years, and it started as a continuation of the KDE 3.5 desktop, but it has since forked and become its own desktop in its own right. It's really lightweight, easy on system resources, and the way that I kind of look at Trinity, it is because it is derived from KDE 3. It is based on the Qt framework. If you look at the scale of Qt desktops, you see I'm running the KDE 4 Plasma desktop here. This is going to be at one end of the spectrum. This is going to be one of the more resource hungry desktops. The current Plasma desktop is, and it's going to run at idle 500-600 meg depending on your implementation. On the other extreme of that spectrum, you're going to have desktops like Razer Qt and now LXDE Qt that are going to be really slim and lightweight, running on average between 150-200 meg. Trinity is going to fall somewhere in the middle of that, so you can kind of look at it as maybe the Qt equivalent of XFCE, if that makes any sense. So let's get over here and take a look at this and show you what Q4OS is all about. Q4OS, before we get into the desktop proper, when you download the medium, there is no live environment. It is straight installation medium, and it is a command line install. But that said, it's not a difficult install. It was very straightforward, very easy to install this. And when I first booted into it, I was pleasantly surprised that the OS detected that it was running in a virtual, and it actually said, this is the best way to test Q4OS. As always, this is running in a virtual box. It has 2 gigabytes of RAM, 2 dedicated processors, and when I first booted in and it detected that it was running in a virtual environment, Q4OS actually prompted me to install their customized version of the VirtualBox guest editions, and that was a smooth installation. The installer was actually very Windows-esque, and you'll find those little helpful notes and prompts throughout Q4OS. So it's off to a really good start. The only knock that I have for Q4OS is the fact that it does not have a GUI-based software manager package and installation utility. That is in development at this point, but it's not yet ready for release. And based on that alone, I would not recommend Q4OS for a new Linux user at this time. When that does come on board and become functional and reliable, absolutely, this would be a great launching platform for those people coming over from Windows, especially those that are leaving Windows XP, because this Q4OS has the look and feel of Windows XP, as you're going to see here in a moment. For those of you who are intermediate to advanced Linux users, because this is Debian based, package management can be done through the terminal very easily using apt-get. So let's take a look and see what you get here. This is a minimal install. It's meant to be built upon by the end user, but you get one traditional desktop. On that desktop you have a shortcut to My Documents, and the home folder has been laid out very similar to Windows XP. You have My Documents with subfolders for music and pictures. My Computer gives you options to boot into the root of the file system, and file management here, file browsing, is being handled by Conqueror, which we're going to get more into Conqueror here in just a moment. You have a shortcut for My Network Places, the web browser, and the trash. You also have one panel across the bottom. On the lower right hand corner is a clock utility, calendar and clock. You have the volume control, clipboard manager, as well as a notification area. The running applications will be displayed in the central portion of the bar. On the lower left hand side you have a shortcut to your web browser, a show desktop icon, and the menu. Opening the menu, the very top portion here is going to be your most recent frequently used applications. You have a program submenu with accessories, Internet, Conqueror web browser, Wi-Fi manager. Multimedia, you have your sound mixer. Under settings, you have printers application. Under system, you have a few super user utilities. You can open the file manager or the terminal in super user mode. That's handy. You have a process viewer, screen resize and rotate application, performance monitor, user manager, the terminal, and Crusader in root mode. It's an alternate file management system. For utilities, under desktop, you have the desktop pager and clipboard tool. Editors, your text editing is via kwrite. You have print job viewer and, again, Crusader file manager, but this time as user, not as root. No games are installed, nor startup items. Going down to documents, you have a shortcut to your documents folder and pictures folder. Under settings, you have quick access to the control panel, and I like the Trinity Desktop control panel. It's simple, kind of reminiscent of Windows. You do have subcategories, so if we go into appearance and themes, for example, you have access to your background colors, fonts. There's a look switcher that you can download and install that will switch you from this modern theme to a more classic theme. So you get the feel of that. It's a subcategorized, very simply laid out control panel. Let's see. You have access to your network connections, printers and fax, and again the start menu. There is a Finder application so you can search for things on the computer, as well as a quick launch for your help. And this help takes you into a kind of a help menu or how-to. It's web-based for the Trinity Desktop Environment. And there's also a run dialog, very reminiscent of the one in Windows. And of course down at the bottom you're going to have your session management. The web browser that's installed by default is Conqueror. Conqueror is one that you don't see very often anymore, and it's a shame. I really like Conqueror. It's kind of what I would call an omni browser, because you can browse not only the web but your file system, and it's a very robust browser in its own right. You have the ability to split the window, and we'll split this top to bottom. And let's select the one on the right and go to google.com. So you can have two browser windows open. We can split it again, say this time top to bottom, and we'll take this one to Let's do the root of our file system. So we have file browser and web browser open at the same time. And then we can throw a terminal emulator down at the bottom of the screen. So, I mean, if you like to multitask, or maybe follow tutorials doing something, following a tutorial on the web for some command line instructions, this is a great option. And it's lightweight and fast. In fact, the first time that you launch Conqueror on this system, you'll also get a pop-up for how to install Google Chrome if you want a more modern browser. And again, it'll launch an installer for you if you so choose. And those types of tidbits are scattered all throughout Q4OS, and that makes it, in my opinion, all the more user-friendly. I've really enjoyed reviewing this. It's been rock solid and stable. I haven't had any crashes or issues. So yeah, I would recommend, if you are an intermediate to advanced user, go ahead and give it a try. Let me know what you think. I really enjoy your feedback, and I appreciate hearing back from you, ladies and gentlemen, when you install this stuff on hardware, because it always seems to function, of course, differently installed on hardware rather than running it in a virtual box. So let me know what your experiences are. Thank you for the feedback. Well, that's it for Q4OS. I'm working on a few projects here, trying to do a mini-series that has been inspired by one of my more faithful viewers, Mr. Davison. Garth recommended that I do one on the Linux kernel, and I am working on that, Garth. And it's kind of turned into a project where I'm planning on doing a whole Linux basics of the kernel, the terminal. I'm calling them shell tricks for some command line basics and tricks you can do in the shell. So if you have any ideas for that type of series, please leave those in the comments as well. I'll try to get to them. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to Jeff Lennox Turner's wife, Sarah. Keep your chin up, ma'am. She's going through a hard time right now, being let go from a job, and it's all about that corporate greed, and right before Christmas too. That just sucks. But ma'am, hopefully this will lead you someplace, a job that you'll like even better, and that will fulfill you professionally even more. So you and the whole family are in our prayers and in our thoughts. Well, thank you for joining me today. Let me know what you think about Q4OS, and I hope to be with you soon for another video.